Hello there, welcome to Chartsmart. My name is Bob, and I've just installed Chartsmart, and it's February of 2023, and you can see the screen on the little picture there, and this is the first menu you get when you start Chartsmart. So this video, I'm just going to turn this on here for a second so you can see it go by. This video is basically going to try to cover what Chartsmart is. It's not really to teach you any specific things. More so it's about showing you what it can do. So it'll be fairly quick, but it'll be fairly long. So what's happening now is there's an auto update, and the first thing you'll wonder is how to update Chartsmart. So I've actually turned this on, which it's automatically doing everything as we're speaking. It so happens it's up to date because all the green bars are all the bars are green and there aren't any red ones. So I'm going to stop the download, but the download only takes about 20 seconds. So every day at about 4:20 Pacific, you can do your update, and you can do it automatically by just starting Chartsmart, going for a coffee for a minute and coming back, and it should be updated and look like this. So what it would have done is it would have gone into the Chartsmart menu, which you're looking at. It would have clicked on Data, Downloader, Download, and Continue. What you saw when the bar went by was it doing that all automatically. So that is how Chartsmart gets updated end of day. And you might think, oh, it's end of day, not intraday or real time. How can I use this? Well, Chartsmart's an amazing research tool, and it just does some amazing things. It's a great charting program, and it also does incredible filtering in all kinds of ways, and then you can manage your portfolios. So I'm going to kind of start through here. I'm actually going to do a filter really quick so you can just see the basic process rather than get into the charting menu, and that all happens here on the filter menu. Okay, so what happens is on the left there's some samples, and this button here allows us to see the samples that are available, but then there are 10 blank areas where you can make your own filter sets, which we're going to make one. So what I'm going to do is close this now, and the first step is to add a new filter set, and I'm just going to call this test set. Okay, and press enter, and there it is. So what I want to do now is take some criteria and put it in that set, and so what you have is 10 filter groups that you can put as many sets in as you want. So this one might be stocks that you think are going to go up, and you might have like 20 sets in here and so on. So what happens is I go to the criteria to be used, and then on the right there are a number of tabs. There's 14, and I'm just going to take and click on the Exchange tab, because if you don't select one, it will choose all of them. For example, if I go back and I just go Run Filtered List, you can see really quickly it says 15,763. That's how many stocks there were. So in other words, it took everything. It didn't have any criteria or parameters to reduce that list. And once you get a filtered list, you can sort it in ascending order or descending order in a host of ways, which you can see here. And for example, a very simple one would be just on daily volume of shares in descending order. So I'm looking through the whole database and saying which ones had the highest volume. Okay, and it so happens that Mullen Automotive did. And then I can go back, I can close, I go back to my charting menu, I go group, and I can see these all here, little summary, and then I can go begin scrolling. And then I can look at the charts. So if I go forward, you can see that I'm going through these. Now actually it's showing some indices at the top, and that's because we didn't choose a specific exchange. So what we're going to do now, sorry, is just take New York. Okay, so obviously New York is going to have less security. So let's see what we get, and we get 4,600. Okay, now at this point I want to show you that there's a feature in Chartsmart that considers the fact that many securities are ETFs, and if we close this, remember there's 4,600 in the US or in New York. If we close this, we go up to Tools and to some interesting information. This just gives us a brief summary of those 15,680 securities, and it says 3,200 of them are ETFs. Okay, and if you look at New York here, you can see out of the 4,600, 1,923 are ETFs. And there is a way to exclude all ETFs when you do your screens, which you might want to do. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm just going to go up to Display and our miscellaneous display settings summary. And down here it says if this number 16, if this is checked, all ETFs are excluded. Okay, so I'll go back here and let's run our screen on New York again. Okay, and we should get less than 4,600. In fact, we do. We get 2677. So I've shown you how to do a screen, but of course if we go to the criteria, we can start saying which sector we want, what type of security we want, the price ranges, whether they're near their high or they're low, their volume of trading, whether it's spiking up or how active it is in the last 30 days to get rid of stocks that are not trading much. We can do all kinds of technical indicator screens, and remember all these things can be combined with the others, so you can have like 10 or 15 criteria. We can go through fundamentals, and we can say the PE ratio has to be a certain amount, or the revenue is growing at a certain rate, and so on. So there's just so many possibilities. You can even screen out stocks that are components of indices. For example, all the ones that are in the TSX capped composite index, about 250, 300 companies, or all the companies that might be in the S&P composite. Whoops, sorry. By the way, that is a little feature in here where if you click on the name, it gives you a little summary of what that criteria is about. And then of course there's we can go further. There under the special tab, there's news release filters where you can screen out keywords in the headlines and the content. You can screen out for stock splits and new listings and so on. And I'll take a look at that one in a minute. And then the most powerful area is the use specify, where you can actually screen out, you can create your own formulas. Okay, so this is amazing, especially in conjunction with the fact that Chartsmart is the only product that allows you to like screen for today. For example, you could say, oh, I want all the stocks with an RSI over 70 today. But because we keep the screening file every day and make it available to you going back a number of years, those are called backtest files, you can, for example, say, I would like to do this screen 5 days ago or 10 days ago. So you could say, I want the RSI over 70 today, I want it under 65 days ago and under 50 10 days ago. So what you do is you're actually screening on the trend and indicators, not just the absolute value. So that is just an amazing feature, and it branches out into so many possibilities like back testing and so on, but that's something we can discuss later. So we've got New York, and what I'm going to do is close this, and I think we ran the filter list. Let's just do it again. It's so fast, and we could sort it as well if we want, or not. We could just leave it alphabetical. Okay, and we go back to the filter menu and we go group and we begin scrolling. Okay, and there's our first chart, Allegiant Technologies. So now I've shown you basically the concept of filtering and how diverse and broad it is, but we can go back to that later. Let's discuss the charts. So on the very top you can say scrolling now on chart 1 of 2677. So let's look at this. First of all, I can click anywhere on the chart. By the way, this is a weekly chart. You can see it goes back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. You can actually zoom it and go back 10 years. Okay, and we'll go zoom that back to the default. You can also go tighter, like, or sorry, I went the wrong way here. Let's go down here. You can spread it out. Okay, so the bars are apart more, and just go back to the default. Okay, so that's a daily chart. Let's look or that's a weekly chart, and a daily chart looks like this. And I accidentally changed that too. So let's put that to the default. So there's a daily chart. Now probably you're looking at these colorful lines at the bottom. So I'm going to go back to weekly chart and explain that, because they're very important and unique to Chartsmart. You'll notice that there's a blue line, and that's the dividend. And the you can see that on the scale on the right in blue. And you can see the PE ratio is the magenta line, which has been coming down a little bit, and the revenue is the black line. You can see OP rev, operating rev, and the red line, which is earnings, is going up, and the cash, the yellow, is going down. Now you can see how the fundamentals actually correspond with the value of the chart in many cases. I'll just press the forward button to go to the next one, and here you can see how the red line went up, the earnings, and how Alcoa was up, but now the earnings have come down and it's dropped a bit. The dividend, though, you can see is going up, and there's actually a new dividend that came out. So this information is summarized with the PD5 button. Okay, so if you look at this, we can see, for example, you see how the dividend, the blue line on the right there, you can actually see the dividend, how it was 10 cents and then it went to 40 cents. Okay, so, and it was 0 in previous years. So these are yearly summaries. Then you can go quarterly summaries as well. Okay, but the yearly ones correspond with the chart. So let's go look at another one. Okay, that one doesn't have as much information. This one's more of a new listing. Let's just keep going till we find a more, here's one, Advanced Auto Parts. Now immediately what's interesting, you can see the blue line going up, so hey, they're starting to pay big dividends. They're going way up. And it's interesting seeing this so quickly when you're scrolling to the charts. So then you're probably asking, well, how do I save these charts if I like one, you know? And that's what we have watch lists for, and that's what the Z watch is for at the top. So what I'm going to do is make a new watch list, and I'm going to call it Stocks I Like. Okay, and we'll add that, and it'll be empty. But what I could do is I could add this displayed chart, okay, to the watch list. And so as I'm scrolling with the forward button through my filtered list, I could go to Z Watch and add the displayed chart. The other way is to simply do a search, and I'm going to show you the search engine in a second, because you might want to look at a stock specifically. Okay, so let's go through a couple more so you can kind of just get another feel for how it works. And you can see this one, the dividend was going up, it's coming down, the PE ratio is pretty low. And you can also see over here in COVID when it dropped, and that little red line is the plot line, and you can see how it's summarized on the left here, and we can just move it to the right with our plot bar. And you can see how it dropped in 2020 down from 35 to 15, and then ever since it's been having a great run, this company. So you start to get a feel for how you can move through Chartsmart. So now I'm going to discuss these top buttons, and then I'll probably discuss the pop downs a little bit and some of the features, and then we'll go into the filter menu and look at it in more detail, because really that's what Chartsmart's about. So it's really a logical, quick, secure product that you can use to manage your stocks that you research. So let's see. Let's go first to the next button, which is where we do the search. So if I click next, you can see a list alphabetically ordered because they're sorted by symbol down here. If I go company name, it goes this way. Okay, and I can type in the top a symbol, and let's try IBM. Okay, and if I press enter and then enter again, you can see how quick I get it. If I go MSFT, enter, enter. Now if I go and let's try American Barrack. Okay, so there we go. You can see how quick it is, and that's the how you call up a chart. And you can do it by stock symbol or company name. And in this case, I'm only displaying the symbols with bids and asks. Now you can see that number 15,763. That's how many companies there are with bids and asks in the database to be scanned. We actually have a lot more companies in this list that are available. And if I display all available symbols, watch what happens to that number. It went to 57,000. We have 57,000 symbols because a lot of companies have had the name changes and they've gone to new companies. For example, I'm just looking at this one, ABZ on Toronto, and you can see it's also on the TSX Venture, but it doesn't exist on one of them anymore. So let's just try this one and see what happens when we accept it. Okay, so this is the Venture, and this is probably where it is now. And I'm going to go back to ABZ again, but I'm going to do the Toronto one. And you can see it comes up, but then it says it went to another company, and then to another company. So what this means is ABZ on Toronto, maybe 12 years ago or something, no longer existed, and then it was changed to another company and so on. So you can see the process of how these name changes occur. So that's why, because that was kind of complicated, we stick with this. Only ones where the bid and ask are there. So we get the ones that are actually trading. So that's the search engine. That's how you call up a chart. There is another way to do it, which is kind of interesting, and this is, if we switch down here, we can do that. And when we do that, it just means this menu is going to change. And let's try it. You see, it looks different now. And the other method we call classic. So if I type in, say, IBM now, it'll come up here, and I can double click on IBM or press enter, and there it is. But this other search engine has some other interesting features. For example, if I didn't know the company, if I knew that there was a company called Micro something, Micro S, Microsoft, or you know, I'm being silly, but let's say I just type in micro. Okay, what happens is it finds all the names that start with micro, which are 32. Okay, so, oh, there's Microsoft. That's the one I meant. Okay, so I could double click on that. Or it also considers all the ones that have micro in the name. So you can see all these ones down here have micro in the name. So Microsoft will be here as well. And there it is. Okay, so I could double click on it, and there comes the chart. Now, what's interesting with this feature is that if you're not sure of the symbol or the company, you can put part of it in, and you can get the company easier. Again, it has the search by all symbols or only trading, which is what we preferred on the other menu. But what I'm going to show you here is a neat little thing, and this starts getting into this screening area. If I type in all the companies that might have the word lithium in their name, okay, let's see what we get. Okay, so we got, obviously there's no symbols called lithium, but we have quite a few, 9 of them, starting with the word lithium. Okay, but over here we have 62 with the word lithium in them. So these companies are probably in lithium. And what's neat is, for example, we can take these and put them in a filtered list. So if I go view charts for all stocks in the above box, you can see it put them into the filter list. Now you remember when we ran the filter menu, we went through New York and we got 4,600, and we cut out the ETFs and we got 2,700, and they got put in here. And this button, which is governed by the group button here, displays the last filtered list. So all the time you can run different filters and they all go in here. And then you can choose to save this into a watch list if you like to do that. You know, for example, we can now look through these companies and say, well, I know the name has lithium in it, so whoop, I went back instead of forward. Okay, so pretty neat, and that's the beginning of kind of a simple screen. So I've discussed the next button. Let's go back to the classic mode. Okay, so there it is. And we've discussed forward and back, which are basically moving forward through the list or back, and the group button, which is your last filtered list, which usually is received from the filter menu. We've discussed the data button on how to download, and the day and the week. And here we've got some others. So let's take a look at ABX on Toronto. Okay, so there's the chart, and you'll see, I'm going to switch it to daily, you'll see all these little blue bars on the bottom, and you'll see some are red, and there's a reason for that. And these are news bars. These are when news releases occurred, because that's all part of Chartsmart. So if we want to look at all those blue bars, we can actually click on one like this. It's a little hard there, but there we clicked on one. Or we can look at the summary button, which gives us all those blue bars listed down here in the headlines, sorted by their date. Okay, so you can see what's going on. If we click on it, we can read the news. And if you're looking for private placements, for example, you can actually click on here and it'll tell you all the headlines that have private placements. Or you can look at other companies that have the same phone number, which just so happens that Gold in New York and ABX have the same phone number. And name changes, there aren't any. Of course, if we look at with maybe some smaller companies like in the venture, let's take one here. This is, you can see the news releases on the bottom. Let's go look at the summary button there. And we can see lots of news, but we can see under placements, we can see there's quite a few private placements. And for anybody who looks at the junior stocks in Canada, this kind of information can be very interesting. It might indicate that they're doing financings to insiders at low prices, preparing for maybe some action in the stock. Similarly, options is another one where they grant options, and you can see when they do it. And those are the yellow bars. So the bars, the news bars, are actually colored to correspond with the headline or the content of the news, and that's all another area which I don't want to get into because it's just another branch to go off in Chartsmart, and we want to kind of stay on the main theme of just showing you generally how it works. Okay, so that's the summary button. That brings the news. The quote button is just a simple summary of the quotes. If you're looking at a daily chart, you can see there every day. But if I switch it to weekly and I go to the quote button, you can see that they're every week. Okay, so the list button I will get to in a minute, and we've discussed the Z Watch. I'll discuss the list with the port button because the port is your portfolio. The info button is a nice summary of that company. For example, I can see this information on the right, and I can choose what I want to see. For example, I can take out the bid and ask if I don't care. You can see they disappeared. Or I can take out the shares held by institutions, and whatever I want. Take out their EPS or add whatever I want in there, and then I can get a quick view. That's one area to see, and of course you can see these yellow and white bars in the top, and that's another area where you can customize what you see on the chart, what's important to you. Okay, now you can also make memos. So for example, if I was looking at ABX again, I could say something like, oh, this is a gold company I like. Okay, and once I add it, close and accept, you can see that the bar goes, or the button goes red. So if I look at Microsoft, you can see that, here we go. Okay. If I look at, I think, actually I already have a memo on Microsoft, I guess. There we go. You see I have a test memo. So this is a good example where I've got, you can see 2 charts with memos. And again, I can run a screen on this. Let's say I had 150 companies that had memos, and I wanted to actually go through them and maybe take some of the memos out. I could go view charts for all stock symbols with memos, and it would put those 2 companies in the filtered list again under the group button. And then what I could do is scroll through them, and then I could choose to go to the memo, and I could delete the currently displayed memo. I guess I could do it that way. And then what happens is if I look up MSFT again, whoop, you can see it's there, but if I go down here and I go view charts with memos, it's the only one with memos. So you can see there's another filtering way in Chartsmart. So we've kind of looked at a little bit through the next button at how to filter out a name, a word in the name, and in here. And we did one in the filter menu. So there's probably about 20 kinds all over the place, but I'm just going through these top buttons. So let's go to the list button now, and what this does is we provide some various indices and custom lists, and then you have your watch lists and portfolios. And what this does is allows you to go look through them. So for example, if I wanted to go through the index lists, you might have noticed when I looked through the criteria tabs in the filter menu, you saw some names of indices, and these are the same ones. So I could take the capped composite index, and you can see that there are 236 companies. I could take this one, and you can see there's 60. So what I could do, for example, is I could quickly, if I wanted to look through these companies, I could go view charts, and there they are, and I could go through them. And what I could do is, as I'm going through them, I could actually add them to another watch list. So you can see I've got 2 watch lists in here. I've got one called New York Stocks I'm monitoring, and one's Stocks I Like, which I think we created that earlier when we went through the New York stocks. So let's leave that as the last one. So if I were going through this list button and I was scrolling through these charts, I could say, okay, well, I'll go to weekly here and say, oh yeah, I like that one. So I'll add that one to my watch list as well, and it goes back to the last watch list. Okay, so you start to get the picture how you can move from one list and collect a list and merge them together and find out what's common to them, and you really can manage your investments unlike any other way that you can do it. You know, you can look at stock charts or look at screens on various sites on the internet, but you can't manage it the way Chartsmart can do it. So the ZWatch button is very interesting. We notice a lot of subscribers might have 100 or 200 different watch lists, which they're monitoring and scrolling through each day and taking stocks out or adding them or whatever they may be doing. And there's all kinds of features in here. You can sort them. You can import lists from text files. You can import your last filter list to a watch list. For example, if I were to run a filter, let's just do another one here. Let's go into our New York one and say, okay, well, we just want to look at ones that are over $10 and that they have had an increase in their 1 week volume relative to the last 10 weeks. Okay, whoops. I think I need to put a number in there, which is a percent. It needs to be up by maybe 2 times, or I can't quite remember. Let's see what we get. So these ones will have volume spikes. So there's 53. So I could put this in a filter list now under ZWatch automatically, or I could close and go to group and begin scrolling. And by the way, you'll see the big jump in the volume there on the right. You see down here there's a big jump, and what that is it's I believe it's because it's over twice as high as the average volume in the last 10 weeks. So you're catching ones that have an increase in volume. Okay, so we could have put that into a watch list already, or we could have just gone this way and said, oh, I want to import this, and I'll call it I just ran these. I just ran this filter list. I know that's not exactly very appropriate, but let's just go accept and close. And what happens is you can see there it is along with the other two. So you start to see how we're playing around with this. Now another neat feature in here in Chartsmart is if I look at one of these lists, say New York stocks I'm monitoring, and you see there's 7 in that list, I can click on this little globe and it'll actually go to the internet and get me intraday quotes on those at various sites that we can set. In this case you can see it's Yahoo at the top, and this is so during the day you can actually go in and get quotes on various things. And I might as well show you at the same time, since we're on the subject of the globe, that you can also hit the globe at the top right here. So we can see we're looking at Clearwater paper, and we're going, what is Clearwater paper? I can click on the info button in Chartsmart. Oh, they're basic materials, paper and paper products. But I'd like to know more. Well, Chartsmart's connected, and if we go here, we can set various sites to get links that correspond to the stock that you're looking at. And in this case, we could go to company profile in Yahoo. And what it'll do is, if you go through, you can see all this key executives, you can see its location, you can get a nice description on it, and so on. So that's just one example of one of the things that you can get by connecting to the internet. You can look at message boards and so on. So you can start to see how powerful this is. It's pretty hard to find anything it doesn't have. So we've kind of looked at the list button here, which was we looked at index lists, and what you can also do is look at your watch lists, which we have here, and we know what they are. Or you can look at your portfolios, and that's our next topic. We have only one portfolio, and it's got 3 companies in it. So let's go over to the portfolio button, and there we go. There's our portfolio, and these are not my positions. I'm not sure what this is, but these are samples. And if I wanted to add one, let's say we wanted to add I don't know, IBM. So we could either do a search for IBM, or we could look at the chart. But what I could do is do the search and go IBM, and let's just put it there, and you can see it goes in there with no position. But I don't know what it's trading at currently. Let me just look it up. Okay, it's 135 or so. So if I were to go back to the port button, I could say, okay, well, I just bought $20,000 worth of IBM, or let's say I bought 100 shares for 100, and the total cost was $12,000. Okay, with commissions. Okay, so yeah, there I paid 120. So all of a sudden I'm smart because it's higher than what I bought it at. I wish it was that easy, but I think it is. So what I can do is go to the portfolio summary at the end of the day, and it gives me some information, and you can see the percent change. ABX was down, and I can sort these by right clicking or left clicking on the columns. Okay, and I can also get color codes as to the percentage it changed. If it's red, it's down. You can see the percent change column or up, and then I can get a market value summary for my total cost and the total profit, and then another type of summary. So it's kind of a simple portfolio, but it actually does a pretty good job. Chartsmart wasn't really meant to be a portfolio management system, but it's a nice addition. We might add some graphics in there for the percentage of your positions in different out of your portfolio and so on. So you can have unlimited portfolios, unlimited watch lists. So now you're getting a feel for Chartsmart. Now you're probably saying, well, how do I print a chart? Okay, so the next thing is you've got this print button and you can do it up here, but recently we added a really neat feature under the filter button. And what it does is it always puts the currently displayed chart right here, which is IBM. Okay, now if we click on that, what I can do is I can save, I can print to a PDF, and then I can print that PDF later, or I can send it to somebody. So if I wanted to do a weekly and a daily chart on one page, it's checked there. I could do a weekly with fundamentals on the bottom as well. And why don't I show you that one? So I'll do this. I'll go print the PDF, and you can see there's the chart coming up. Okay. We'll just give it a second. Okay, and there we go. So we've gone through these flashing things on the screen, and let's see what resulted from it. So we go back to the button, and we go in here to view files or delete files, and you can see here that if we click right here, it's got a time and what it is. This will bring up my PDF viewer, and it will allow me to see what I've created. Okay, and you can see I've got the weekly chart of IBM on the top, and we'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see the bottom. But we've got a really nice summary of the fundamentals, and so you could have 10 charts in a watch list, and you could actually do this for each one quite quickly. So that's how you do one chart, and I'll just delete all the PDF folders, or all the charts in the PDF folder. And what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to go back here to the portfolio that we had, and I'm going to put that into the last filter list. Okay, so this could be 4 stocks or 1,000 stocks or whatever, but what I'm going to do is print these. So I could go back here, and rather than just do one, I can go print charts for list, and I have a number of options, and I could do it like I did and do one chart of each one with the weeklies, and let's go ahead and do that. It shouldn't take us too long to run that. So you can see there's the Barrick, and there's the fundamentals, and then there's BMO and the fundamentals. And basically what Chartsmart's doing is it's taking a snapshot of these, and it's going to make four pages that we could have as PDFs, and we could print those later. So if I go back in here and I look at the folder, you can see there they are. So I could take, say, BMO, and it'll do the same thing. It brings up the information. Okay, that's pretty neat. So I'll clear that, but what I'm going to show you is something even neater when it comes down to printing. And if we go in here and we choose 4 per page landscape, I can actually put those 4 charts on one page. So let's do this and see what we get. Okay, so it's going to do each weekly chart exactly as we formatted it, with the fundamentals on the bottom, with a MACD line on the bottom, and there we go, it's finished. And let's see what it created. Now remember, if you had a list of 100 stocks, you could make 25 pages that are going to look like this. Now, isn't that nice? Okay, so let's reduce that a bit, and you can see there are the 4 charts with all the colored lines, and we can go in and look a little closer at one of them or all of them. And then very neatly organized. The reason why we're able to do this and nobody else can is because we used to sell chart books, and we actually took over a company called Independent Survey Company years ago, and they had the red and blue book in Canada, and they were the biggest chart book manufacturer. We learned a lot about making stock charts in books, and that's why these have page numbers on them. So if you did 25, they'd have 25 pages. So we were one of the first companies actually making stock charts. You can imagine Chartsmart 25, 30 years ago. Really, internet charts didn't exist much, and they had to be even drawn by hand 40 or 50 years ago to make these books. So that's why we have these unique features. So that's a little bit about printing. You can see that's pretty amazing. And I'm going to go back to the charting menu, and I think we've covered just about every button on the top. Now I can kind of go through some of these pop-down items, and then we're going to look at the filter menu, which is sort of like the icing on the cake. And really, in a way, all these things I'm talking about are the icing on the cake, while the filter menu is really like the real thing, what this all is about. So if we go to the top, there's a way simply to change save the screen. You can save it to an image. If I just go like this, it'll actually put it that image. You can see it's a copy of what was behind. It puts it in a folder that we can go take a look at. And here it is there. And that's a quick way of creating a JPEG and sending it to someone if you want. And we'll go across the chart, and right now we're on arithmetic and split adjusted. I can't think of a stock. Maybe Microsoft has been split. Let's take a look. Not in the last while. I think Tesla had a split recently. So there's 2 splits on Tesla. So we can look at it without the split adjustment, right? That's an option. But usually it's preferred to have it. So that's quite a chore, maintaining the splits. We can look at the chart as semi-logarithmic, which you can see the scale is changed, and this is on a percentage basis, and a lot of people prefer this, so that's very important. And then there's candlestick charts, which is kind of unique. And let's look at a candlestick chart, and a little message comes up that says, well, the candlesticks are kind of wide, you might want to zoom out a bit. And I kind of showed you the zoom button, so we could go out and maybe go like this to widen them up a bit more, so it's a little easier to see. Let's just go another notch here. There we go. So you can see there's the candlesticks, okay? And that's for people who really like candlesticks. Let's go back to arithmetic, and we'll switch the zoom back to the default, which is right here. Okay, now we were talking about splits, and I've shown you how that works. You can actually click on the split button, and it tells you what it was all about. And you know, I'm going to go run a filter just to change it up a bit to show you one of the criteria, and that was in the filter menu. So the last time we were in the filter menu in the test set, we ran the price over $10 and the volume breakouts. But let's just take that off, and let's take off the last traded price, and let's go over to the special tab, and we're going to go to name changes and splits. And what we're going to do is look for all the companies that have had not name changes, not consolidations, but stock splits in the last year. And of course Tesla should be in that list. So let's go back. We'll go back to, say, February of 2022, and we could put today's date in here, which I believe is the 19th. We don't need to. That's 361 days, which is about a year. And you can actually see on the top there's Tesla. But this is a list of all the splits for all companies on all exchanges that occurred. For example, this is actually on the Canadian Stock Exchange. There was a split, and these ones were on Toronto. So what happens is when we leave this menu, we'll run the screen. Okay, and we've just done it. And there's 60. You can see it came up over here, and if we run it again, it'll reduce it so that it only looks at the ones that on the exchange we were looking at, which was New York. So I'm just going to go through here, and here we go. I'm just going to close this, And I just want to make a note. Tesla was not on that list because it's on NASDAQ. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to the exchange tab. I'm going to add NASDAQ. Okay, you can see, whoop. And now we'll get maybe 30 or 40, 32. And if you'll see down here there's Google had a split, and there's Tesla as well. So what's nice is we can go back to our group button, and if you're someone looking at stock splits, this is a great tool. You can be in scrolling and you'll see that the SP line, the SP is there. By the way, this blue line on the left is a new listing. So there you can see, in every stock that we're looking through will have had a split within the last year. Okay, wow, that one's had a lot of splits. I've never seen so many. Arrow Financial, and that one must be related. All of these ones. So we'll go a couple more. Okay, so there we go. I guess a lot of these banks have regular splits, or at least in the last 10 years. So you can see that the charts are great. We've got split information. We've got fundamentals on the bottom. We've got all kinds of information. Let's continue. Of course, we got the indicators right now. We've got the fundamentals on, and I might as well show you now in the fundamentals, since those colored lines are kind of important at the bottom. You can actually change and select different ones. For example, if you didn't care about the cash, but you were interested in, I don't know, say the issued capital, total shares issued and outstanding, we could take that and we could give that a color. Let's give that one the color yellow, okay, instead. And then we'll close and refresh the chart. And what you're going to do is you're going to get the yellow line representing, I guess I shouldn't have chosen you. That's the total shares outstanding. So what happens is you can see if the number of shares outstanding is going up or down. So as we look at IBM, you can see how the actual number of shares went down. So maybe they were buying shares back 5 or 7 years ago, and now they're going up again. And if we look at the PD5 button, you can see that down here under the issued shares outstanding, you can see how it was 960, it went down to 940 in 2018, and then down, down, down into 2020, and it started to go up again, just like the yellow bar shows on the chart. So you can just see how that's one way you can change that. Now we could take the fundamentals off and we just turn the feature off, and what would happen is that whole bar would disappear and we only have the MACD line. And then if we liked RSI, we could, for example, choose where's the RSI, relative strength index, and we could put it on the weekly for the 14 and 9 day. Let's just do the 14 day. So what will happen is you can see it comes up on top of the volume scale, and you can adjust the bars however you want. So there's indicator bar level settings, and we could say, well, I want the relative strength to be on bar 2. So what happens is it doesn't interfere with the volume scale then, and you get a new bar. Okay, and you can see it at the bottom. There's the RSI. So logical, lots of flexibility. A quick look at the different indicators here. We've got alternating colors for volume and closed bars, ADX, average true range, Bollinger Bands. If you're into indicators, some of these will be interesting to you. Going down further, we get more into a more complicated area, which is filter alerts. And I might as well look at that now, since we're looking at indicators, and a little disclaimer message comes up because the alert bars, the arrows come up on the charts, and we've got preset ones here which are pretty common, like MACD crossovers is the blue one with the number 2 on it, and Bollinger Band breakouts, and so on. So I'll close and refresh the chart, and these work only on the dailies. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, I didn't turn that feature on, so I have to turn that on. That's the IBM daily chart without the feature on. let's go in here, and down here I have to turn this on, and you'll see a change. Okay, now remember there were 4 options there, and the second one was for the MACD crossover, and you can see when I put the mouse over, it actually shows number 2. So down here, this is the actual, you can see the red going to the blue when there was when there was a crossover. Okay, and you can see on the scale down here the same. Now you'll notice this number 4 up top. This was a down indicator on a Bollinger Band, and if we had the 10-day Bollinger lines on the chart, this would actually be crossing through the bottom line. But these help you see. So these can be interesting and helpful if you rely on certain indicators. So that's the filter alerts. And we actually have a much more sophisticated feature in Chartsmart where you can actually create your own filter alerts. For example, if you liked a certain candlestick pattern, like a doji or something, you could actually have an alert come up based on your formula or that doji or whatever you might say that showed up in the past whenever it occurred, which is only possible because of the backtest files that I mentioned. Because when it draws the chart, it can scan all the old backtest files and determine if that event, that doji or whatever occurred, and then it can put the appropriate candle or the appropriate arrow on top. So I know we're getting a little complicated, but Chartsmart does complicated stuff. So let's close this, and let's go across here. We're under the indicators. Let's just leave that for now. Tools. One of the neat things in Chartsmart, and we can talk about another kind of filter here, is annotations and trend lines. And what I'm going to do is add a trend line to IBM. Okay, so we can drag this over here, and this is again totally unique to Chartsmart. And this is an ascending trend line. Okay, and let's say we had 200 stocks and we put trend lines on them, right? And we wanted to know when they crossed those trend lines. So we looked at it every day, and we had to scroll through all the charts to see if they crossed the trend lines. Not with Chartsmart. You don't have to scroll. You can just go into the annotations and trend lines, and let's see what happens here. We can go on the bottom, and we can go click screen to find all stocks that have broken below your ascending trend lines. Well, that one hasn't, but let's see what happens. It says we have here a total of 1 trend line, and none have crossed. But let me try something here. Let me pretend that it's 3 days from now, and let's do this again. And you'll notice that it says it crossed over. So Chartsmart has automatically screened out stocks that crossed your trend lines. I'm unfamiliar with any product available like that. And again, the reason why we can do that is because we've had so much experience with chart books and people using trend lines 30, 40 years ago in their evaluation of various companies. Then what we can do is view stock charts of all those things with annotations. So it tells us everything that we've got going on here. We've got no Fibonacci retracements or fans, and so we'll go back to our group button, and we should see just IBM in there, which we do because that was scrolled out. So this way we could scroll through all the stocks that have trend lines or have crossovers or whatever. And just as an additional note, while we're looking in here, you can put little notes on the chart. For example, don't worry about the gray mark that it'll leave there in the back. That'll just go away when you go refresh. But you can move this box and just type in "I like this pattern," and this text box will stay on the chart all the time. So if we go back here and we go to our annotations and trend lines, it will we can get a a summary again. Let's see, I don't know exactly where that is. That's the trend lines. There you can see on the top it says we have one text box. Okay, now I can clear everything, and that's what I'm going to do. So we've cleared all the different trend lines, so you can see if we go back to IBM, it's gone. Now continue. Tools. Calculate volume of shares between a trading range. Kind of a neat feature. This little message window comes up, and then what happens is you can say, well, how many shares traded in November? You can just click here, and then a nice summary comes up, and it says, well, 11% of the total market cap traded in that range. Interesting feature. It depends what markets you're looking at, but it's kind of unusual. You can look at in the Canadian news. So let's look at a Canadian stock or the US, but let's take ABX again. Okay, and we could just go tools. Actually, I didn't need to look at a specific chart. I'm sorry I did that. In the Canadian news just means which stocks had news today in Canada. And so here they are. There's 286 or 285. And here are all of them. And what I could do is I could then actually just look through all the charts that had news. And what you'll do is you'll see a news bar on the far right. So if I look at each one, you can see a news bar right where the mouse is. Okay, because there was news today. We could look at this one, and it would tell us what occurred. And I guess they had their fourth quarter results, and they might have not been too good, and that's why Agnico Eagle is down. You can do the same thing with the US. We looked at some interesting information. You can get information on the company website. Sometimes we have their email. We have price alerts. So this is kind of like the trendline crossovers, only what you can do is add a price alerts. For example, if I want to know if AEM goes below $60, I can add the chart and I can say, well, if the price is less than 60, then let me know. Okay, and then I can go view all that have had that occur. And actually, I have, let's see what I've got here. The current price is 62.31 and less than or equal to 60. And view occurred, I believe, is in here. View all, view only triggered. So you see that one has not occurred yet. So if I go view only triggered, it's not there. If I go view all, these are a list of all of them. So if it was actually 64, I wanted to know when it occurred, then it has been triggered. And then what happens is you can say, okay, out of the 100 stocks that I put in here where I wanted to know if they went up or below a certain price, I can now put them in my watch list. So I can go view the charts. So there might be 20 that have crossed my line. So you can see the similarity with the trend line crossovers. And now you're starting to see that there's a lot more to the screens in Chartsmart than just the filter menu, which we've hardly even looked at. There's just about anything you can conceive. So we'll go down here further. There's a self-teaching menu. I'm going to leave that, but that's a very interesting. Well, I guess we can take a quick look. This basically allows you to draw a chart, like take Agnico Eagle, and you can have it only go up to this point. So you could say I want it to go only up 10 days ago, and then you could kind of look at it and you could practice. You could practice and say what really happened afterwards. So it's kind of a way of testing yourself. It's a learning tool. And that's what we call it, test your predictive skills, right? You can kind of scroll through charts and they only display up to, say, 8 days ago, and then you can immediately look at the chart right after that. Let me just see if I can do something here. Let's go back 7 days, turn the feature on, close and refresh, and there's a line, and you can see it's on full now. You see these two buttons here. If I go partial, you can see it looks like that. So I can scroll through a list. I only have that one. Let's go back to my filter menu, and let's just run a list of all the New York and NASDAQ stocks, which will be about 6,000 without ETFs. And we'll go back and just scroll through them. So I'll start with the first one, and this one, you see, it goes up to let's see, February 10th, which is 7 days ago. So we're looking at that chart and go, well, what would it have done? Well, let's see. There's the full chart. So you can see this allows us to kind of go back and practice and see what would have happened. So let's do one more. Would it have gone up? It did. So you can do it in conjunction with indicators as well. Like we have the back testing, so you could see if there was a MACD crossover 10 days ago, did it actually keep going up, and so on. So that's a very interesting feature. Probably nothing like that in any other software you can imagine. Let's close that. We've gone to tools, web links. We've done that. Brings up the same thing as the icon in the upper right. And these here are the backtest and the filter alert manager. This is what I was talking about, where you can actually make your own filter alerts. We might leave that till the end. The video is going to be long enough as it is, but you got the idea how sophisticated Chartsmart is, and these are kind of like the ultimate. But I'll get to those. We've talked about actually, this is another topic, the information bars. And these are those yellow and white bars in the top. So, for example, I've said the color on the top one is yellow. Let's just change it to a different color so you can see what I mean. So you see, that's the bar, and we've changed the color. And not only that, we can change the various fields that we want to look at for here. So instead of date traded, we could look at the open price in the first column. So we close and refresh. You can see up here it says the open instead. So you can customize what you see on the top of the chart. I will leave it at green for now. And you can also have this list of which a stock is a component. This will tell you when you display a chart whether it's in these various lists, if it's in an index or custom list. If we have it in a watch list, then what will happen is this, you can see this is a part of consumer defensive. This is the sector. But if we choose one in our portfolio, I think Microsoft was in our portfolio, then I can't remember here. I have to go back here. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, so we might just skip it. Yeah, if I have them all clicked on, what happens is it includes the various indices it's in, and also it says that it's in our sample portfolio. So we know when we look at the chart a little bit about where it is and what it's a part of. So let's turn that off. Okay, and I think quite a few people use that. And miscellaneous display settings. These are various settings. We looked at this when we looked at turning off the ETFs. And also you can, for example, look at the various windows like this, the ones that were turned off or on, and you can turn them back on and off again here. And let's see, fundamentals is the same as the PD5 button. Okay, but because we have the fundamentals turned off in the indicators now, the PD5 and the info button don't show up down there. So if we turn that back on, it'll kind of mess up the chart a bit because we're going to have 3 bars, but you can see it here now. So let me just go into our indicators, and we can do up to 3 bars. So let's put the fundamentals on the 3rd bar. So we've got 1 on each bar, and let's see what we have now. So there we go. And we only have the RSI on the weekly charts. So There's our PD5 button down here, and we've got the the same menu comes up here. Okay. This is another neat feature. We can display something on the chart, so sometimes people can't see the name very well, and in Chartsmart there are a number of variables, and these are the variables. It brings up a web page, and these will be very important if you start customize your own formulas, because these are the key variables. You can draw relationships between them. I'm just going to put the one called name in. Okay, and when you use a variable, all you do is you put a number sign around it like this on both sides, and then it'll say you're okay. What happens when I refresh? You can see there's what I wrote. Company name is Microsoft, and if I wanted to add another one below that, I could do that as well. Okay, I could put in issued cap or the current ratio or whatever if I wanted to see it right there. So let's just leave that like that. We've zoomed maintenance, some amazing features in here. This is for our backup. Very important to back up your custom lists, because if your computer breaks or someone steals it, you can always put your 14 basic files in Chartsmart on a USB, download Chartsmart again off the internet, use your USB, and restore. Bang, you've got everything back that you had. And the other thing is, if you want to transfer your lists to a second computer with Chartsmart, you can do it that way too. You can put them on a USB, reinstall Chartsmart on the other computer, and restore from your USB. For example, if you buy a new computer and your old one's going to go out, that's one way to transfer your stuff over. We have chart colors. You can play with your charts, but these are the basic charts we've got. Right now the charts have a blue in the background. We could go with a light yellow. Let's just see what happens. I've not tried this, but and we'll close and refresh, and there you have the chart with the yellow background, which might be preferable to you, who knows. Okay, I'm going to go back there, and I'm going to set it back to defaults. Okay, there we go, back to defaults. And we got let's see, messages. These come up every day when we put a message out for you after you click your data button and come back. We might have a video for you to play. If there's something in the white box, you click there, and then you go OK and click the play video, and we'll have a little comment here. So that's kind of a very helpful feature in keeping in touch with everybody. These news bars that I talked about, you can change their color and the word they're associated with. And another thing that's interesting is you can change the size of Chartsmart on your screen. So I could actually reduce Chartsmart so it takes 2/3 of my screen, or a certain percentage of what it is. So if you don't want it to take the full screen, that option exists. For example, if it's too big for your screen or something. Now down here, these are very important and interesting. There's export daily data, and I just happen to have one daily file, which is the 17th, and I am going to show you how I can export that. Right now I've got the symbol, date, open, high, low, close, and volume. If I wanted to put in trades as well, I could double click, and then I could say I'm going to do it to Excel. Okay, that's old Excel, but it'll work fine. There's our folder. Let's make sure, actually that one is the wrong folder. And I'm right clicking, by the way. And I can do the date format, which we give all kinds of possibilities, and I can choose the exchanges. Right now it's all of them. And I can do certain things with the symbology. So let's see what we get if I go begin export. So it says there's a file. Let's go take a look at what I've done. I have been able to create an Excel spreadsheet of all the symbols and all their opens, highs, lows, and close and trades with identifiers, and put them in a file. Pretty amazing. Okay, and going even further, we have the option to do it with historical data. And I'll do that quickly with ASCII, and I'll choose the directory by right-clicking again, and I'll choose the export directory, and they'll have a text, and I can do it for one symbol like MSFT, and I'm looking at a daily chart, so it's going to be in a daily format. So I'm going to go export above symbol only. Let's do the same thing and see what we've got, and there we have the historical data going back, in this case, to 2021, because we specified 500 days, and we could have specified 3,000 if we wanted. And believe it or not, you can actually do this for a watch list. So I forgot what our watch list was, but there it is. And I'm going to go into here and just start this. But let's see what we got. Export. So what's happening here, you can see, is actually it's creating those same files for all those symbols. I'm just going to press escape and stop it. But you'll see that in the folder now we've got various files with data. Now this is so that you can do your own analysis. This data is limited to your own use, and we give this option for people who want to possibly export into other software, so that they can export their watch lists and integrate with other tools to help them in their investing. And there actually is another tool for exporting just the symbol, and that's here where you can export the symbols. So in a watch list, I could say, well, okay, I want to take all of those symbols in my last watch list, which was down here, the test set, 6,900, and I want to export them in a certain way so that they look like this, where the exchange identifier is cut off. So what I can do is I can copy them to a text file, and I can look at that file, and there's the 6,000 somewhat symbols. Okay, so let's close that, and I have now given you a rough idea of some of the features. There's another one here, emergency backup restore. This is kind of neat because what it does is if you make a mistake, let's say that you've got your backup, but let's say you want a more immediate backup. Let's say that I lost my portfolio. I did something dumb and I actually deleted my whole portfolio. Oh my God. I can go back here and I go to emergency backup restore, and the last time I started Chartsmart, I can go restore what I had, all my settings. Okay, so you can see I've got back the 3 that I had. I may have added another one somewhere between the last backup. We try to offer every possible way for you to preserve the hard work that you've done, because we know how much work everybody's done to create their watch lists, their filters, everything. There's so much work, it accumulates, and that's why we encourage the backups with the maintenance button, and we encourage, we offer these tools so that you can restore your lists. Very important. Backups are so important. Okay, so I've done a partial summary of the buttons on the top and the pop-down menus. If you want, you can get help in the introductory help menu, and this will answer a few questions and play videos. And there's the main videos, or you can go to help and go to the introductory filter menu, and these don't play videos here. Those are the headings, but if you click these, you will be able to call up a video. Now that square one there was 480 by or 640 by 480. It's an old video, but we've left those in, but those will be getting redone. And then you can choose various subjects. Okay, and in the bottom we're going to be adding more screening strategy options. For example, we've just put up one screening for stocks in a sector, such as lithium. So you can get help on that. And we'll just keep adding videos here so that you can see them. And those are the same videos that are on our web page, which will get added to as well. So Last thing there under the help is our upgrading thing, and you can always upgrade. Just click this and then click this. Takes 10 seconds and you've got the most recent version. Shows up here in the build, which currently is the 17th of February 2023. So now I'm worn out and I haven't even started. Let's go to the filter menu. So we've got our filter groups, which we talked about, and we've got our filter sets, and we have nothing in this filter set. So let's add a new one. We'll call it Bob's List. And now we can look more into these, but I don't really need to go into detail with these other ones. You know what they are. For example, the TSX, I could look at the sector and say, well, I just want to look at chemical ones on the TSX, and I could run that. And then I would get 3, and I could close and go to group. I could scroll through the charts, and then I could decide to add them to my watch list or not. Okay. If I go in here again, I can also select the type. You know, if it's in financial services, these are general summaries of these. For example, you see these are all basic materials. These are consumer cyclical. Rather than having to click all those on, you can just click on this and get them all in that group. So if we get basic materials on the TSX, we get 282. Okay. So again, I'm not doing this slow to teach. I'm trying to just show you what it can do. Okay. Another thing, for example, as I mentioned before, you can click on the name, and we're updating this, and it'll give you information on what you're looking at. For example, this is the new Canadian Securities Exchange that we added, and it was a big thing for us to add this. We needed it for the Canadian markets. If I switch this and go to Canadian, you'll see that I'll get about 700 or 800 companies. Whoop, it didn't do that because let's see what I've done here. Oh, I did the wrong one. I did the index, which is something else. I should have done the actual exchange. So you can actually screen out all the indices that we have as well. So there you go, 788 companies on the Canadian Stock Exchange. Let's go back and switch it to New York. Okay, just because that's a big general one to look at. We've got the price ranges. We can say the percent from year high or low. Let's say that we want ones that are trading near their 52-week high. I could click here. I say I want it within 3% of the 52-week high. I also want it to be very active, to have traded maybe 80% of the last 30 days. And I could add a fundamental. I could say I want their earnings, their EPS to be up in the last 3 years each year. Let's just see if we get any. Okay. We did. Okay, 40. So if we close and go to group and we begin scrolling, if we can remember our criteria, let's go to this one here. I can't quite remember, but it was supposed to be right at its year high, and you can see it's at its 52-week high. And we'll go back to our criteria. And it was very active, and it has earnings growth, which is the red line on the bottom. And let's take a look at the red line on the bottom. You can see how it's been going up the last 3 years. And if we look at PD5, you can see there's the earnings per share up every year in the last 3 years. And we should see that in all of these companies that we look at. Continued earnings growth, the red line on the bottom. Okay, and you could see that here on the PD5 in each case, and of course probably this one, the info button, would give the earnings quarterly information and how it's going up. So we're back to the filter menu, and I've done a rough filter with some basic ones here. I'm going to show you another neat feature. If you either look at the percent from, I'll try to make this simpler. Let's just say that we also want ones over $30. Okay, Now the reason why I'm doing this is it'll reduce the list a little bit, maybe from 30 or 40 down to 10 or 27. There we go. But what I want to do is show you that criteria, okay, which was down here. And I'm going to click Edit. And you can see down here there's a button that says click here for info on how this screen is distributed. So I'm going to click that. And what you do is you get a bar chart. And this is which one did we look at here? Okay, last traded price. Last is, yeah. Okay, so you can see up here what this means is out of the companies on New York, 4,230 are in this price range, 21 cents to $120, and there's only one that's $1,000. So this gives a distribution chart of what you're trying to screen for. So it helps you to understand how many stocks will be in the range that you're looking at. I know that's a bit complicated, but it's a tool to help you understand the criteria and how it applies to the universe of companies that you're working with. So that's under any companies that have an edit button. The volume criteria, the tech criteria, there's just so many, all the crossovers, the Bollinger Bands, breakouts, all the indicators, candlestick patterns, you can screen for them. The fundamentals, very broad possibilities, dividend growth, balance sheet items, ratios, you can screen on all those things. These ones are just your basic lists, you can screen for them. Okay, and okay, and let's see, last list is the last one that we did. You can screen out up here the various, so if we just turn some of these off on our sample, and remember you can make as many filter sets as you want, and then you just go back and run them as you prefer. So I'm just going to take Toronto here, and what I can do is go to the In tab, and I could say, well, I just want the ones that are in a certain index, like in the TSX capped index. And it does a preliminary screen. That's what the red line is. It's kind of doing some extra work. And then it'll tell us out of the TSE ones which are in that index. And of course, all of the ones in that index are Toronto stocks anyway. But that's how that works. Then we have under the Custom tab, we have various sublists as well. Like you can take the S&P Composite, but we also have pre-made lists that we're trying to build here. For example, cannabis companies. So if I were to go into Bob's list and I were to include all the exchanges for Canada, let's see, there we go, and I were to instead choose over here under custom, choose cannabis. Where is it here? Okay, let's see what we get. So I'm going to just look for cannabis companies in Canada, and we get 52 that apply to the screen that we had. Okay, and it has to do with there's Aurora Cannabis, for example. If the word cannabis was in the headline or in the name, that's what caused us to create this this screen. So we can add various lists to that as required. Okay, so we're getting near the end here, but I discussed the special tab a bit, and this allows us, I'm just going to show you the menus. We looked at the new listings and how we can screen out for new list, or actually we looked at splits. We didn't look at this, so I might as well do this. We can go back, and since in this case I'm just going to go back to August 2022, about a year ago, I believe it is, and it's found 770 new listings on all those exchanges. And what I can do is then run this, and I'm going to be able to find all of the stocks that were new listings on all the Canadian exchanges within the last year. You can see it's a little more complex, so it's going through this little process here with the red bar, and then it'll quickly go through with the blue bar. We have 239. Let's look at the charts, and you're going to see something common about all of them. I'll look at it daily, okay, and I'm just going to press the forward button, and you can see that blue line, and all of these stocks are new listings. You can see they don't trade much, some of them, but we could fix that quite easily. In fact, we're going to be a little bit more restrictive, and we're going to say that the volume has to be over 70% of the last 30 days. Let's see how this works. So you can see the flexibility with Chartsmart. There's so many ways to go. I feel a little bad doing this big video with all these different things, but again, it's just to kind of give a rough idea of how everything works. So there's 87 companies now. So let's look, and you can see they're a little more active. So these are new listings that have the blue line on the left that trade a bit more. So you can see why I like that percent active feature. You can also say that the company has traded a certain number of days too, so you don't get ones that just started a week or two ago. So back to the filter menu. We went to new listings, and I showed you the name change one before. And for Canadian stocks, it's actually kind of interesting looking for consolidations combined with private placements, because often stocks are consolidated and insiders will issue stock at the lower prices and the options as well, and then they can be in preparation for good things ahead, possibly. So that's that. And then you have news release filters, and I'm just going to take a quick look at the Canadian one here, and you can choose a word in the headline, for example options, or you can type in your own, like say a diamond, okay, and I'll run the headline screen on that, and you can see all the headlines here have the word diamond in them. And if I go back to the main menu here, I'll try running it, let's see what we get. These ones are all going to have these are going to be Canadian companies that trade over 30% or 70% of the last 30 days, and they have the word diamond in the headline. And look how smart Chartsmart is, it actually extended the bar, so we can see that news release on the chart, or if there's more than one, you can see it there again and there again. Okay, so you can see it kind of helps you isolate things. You can do that for US companies as well, and you can do it for the news content, not just the headlines. Okay, last subject on the filters. I'm going to try to make this short. I'm going to go back to New York here again, and NASDAQ. Whoop, wrong button. There we go. And let's go to the use specify. And what this does is it allows you to create your own formula. And so I'm going to use this one here where it says current assets greater than current liabilities. And you see there's these two variables. And you might remember I had these number signs on the left and right of the variables. And right here you can get the same list. So let's remember TM cur ass and TM tot lia. Okay, and if we go down here to the fundamental, let's see, here we go, TM, there we go, there they are. So you see what I've done is I've taken these two variables and I've put them in a formula. If we go create formula, you can specify that you want the current assets over the total liabilities. Similarly, you could say I want the amount of cash per share to be over the trading price per share, or whatever you would like to do. So let's run this and see what we get for New York and NASDAQ. And so remember, we're looking for current assets over total liabilities, which seems to be a pretty big list. And there's the total liabilities here, and I don't think I have the current assets listed. Let's see if I go to my information bars, and if I switch one of these, I don't really, where's the current assets, total assets, current assets right here. I can only put 5 on, so I have to take off 1, so I'm just going to go up here and take off the date traded. And I'm going to go down here again to current assets, and I think I might have done this wrong. Oh yeah, no, you see on the right here, there's the current assets are 189 million. Whoop. And the total liabilities are 25 million. So yes, and the same, current assets 336 and total liabilities 262. So you can see how Chartsmart will allow you to create formulas that might be of interest to you. So we're getting more into the real meat of the matter here with Chartsmart. You can create up to 50 of your own formulas in here, and there is another feature in here which I'm going to show you, which is kind of neat. And I'm going to, instead of this one, I'm going to take and make a new list. But if I go create formula, there's this thing on the bottom called the Chartsmart formula database, and I can go through here and I can look at some of these formulas we have, and just want to show you on the bottom we have all these candlestick ones, just about every one you could think of, but we're not going to look at that right now. What I'm going to look at is let's see, a 3-day bounce from a 365-day low. Okay, so you can imagine if we want to see a 3 days up after a 365-day low, we need to know what we need to be able to screen what the low was 3 days ago, and that's going to mean we need the back test files. And if we look in here at the formula, this is the actual variable L365, but because there's a 3 in front, that means the low, the 365-day low 3 days ago. Anyway, paste this into our box, okay, and we will go here, and it says we have the backtest files. If I didn't have it, it would let me know and I could download them. So let's close this and let's see what we get. Okay, there are probably going to be very few companies that we're trading at their low and that are just starting to go up. There's 4, okay, on these 2 exchanges. Let's take a look at the charts. So there you go. You can't see that very good, but let's zoom in on it. Okay, so you can see this. It's at its 52-week low, and the last 3 days have been up. Okay, and here's another one. You can't see it quite as easily. We'd have to zoom that more. Let's look at the next one. Once again, you can see the closes 3 days are up, and this is the 52-week low. Okay, so again, just an example of how diverse Chartsmart is. So you've got all these formulas you can or all these variables you can draw from to create your own formulas and run them in conjunction with all the other criteria that we have. So at this point, you've just got an explosive amount of possibilities. Now I'm going to end the video shortly here, but I'm going to go back here, and at this point you've seen, okay, great charts, all these features for exporting and integrating with other software and the internet and indicators and so on, and all these criteria, so I can run all these screens. You've got some screening examples. Now one thing is, how do you know which ones are the best? And I'm not going to get into that in this video, but there is a way to go and back test your filter sets. And for example, I don't have any custom ones there. I I I guess I could try to. We've got the only one we have is Bob's list, which is this screen. But if you had, say, 8 filter sets, and they had different formulas, like your doji candlestick or a MACD crossover or whatever it might be. Well, let's see if we can do this. We'll go into here and we'll choose a MACD crossover up. Let's say the 5 or the 10 to 20 day, we'll take that. So we have a filter formula for NASDAQ in New York, right? And it brings out a certain list of 65 companies. And let's take, we might as well rename this, and we'll call this MACD, okay? And let's add a new filter set, and we'll call it RSI high or low. Okay, let's assume a low RSI might mean it's getting to be a buy. So we could say that we want the oh boy, RSI is greater than, oh no, we'll go RSI is less than 30. Okay, and we'll do one more. Okay, so I've made 2 filter sets, and I'm going to make one more called Doji. Okay, and I'll go in here and I'll do the same exchanges. Whoop, NASDAQ and New York, and I think I want to do that with this one too. Did I do it? I didn't do it yet. New York and NASDAQ. I haven't used this feature for some time, and it's under continued development, but it's pretty neat. I'm going to go to use specify, and I'm going to go in here. I'm not sure if this will work with a custom formula, but it might. But I'm going to go down to create formula, Chartsmart formula database. I'm going to type in Doji. There we go. Reversal. This is bearish. We'll do the bullish one. Okay, we'll paste it in here. I'm not sure we'll be able to use this one, but we'll go back here. Now, okay, so we have 3 custom screens that we've made. Let's go into Tools, Backtesting Your Filter Sets. And what I could do is go back, say, 6 days ago, and I am going to select to do custom only, which there we are. There's the 3. And let's see what happens. Okay, so it says backtest is result. We're done. Let's view the results. Let's see. I didn't do something right here. I think that I included all of the. Yeah, I included all of them, and I shouldn't have. I just want to include. Let's go back here. And take out those. So we have only our custom ones. We'll run the back test again. And there we go. So what it's saying here is that in the last 5 days, the best return was gained by the RSI at the low. And these were the 50 stocks that gave that return of minus 0.1. So, and the Doji gave the worst, down 14%. And there were 50, or no, there were only 3. So you can see what this does is it starts to be an area where you can compare your screens to see which ones would have worked better over a certain period of time. It's a very powerful tool. It's kind of complicated. I've given a rough idea how it works, and we'll leave it at that. Okay. And then of course there was this last one with the filter alert manager where you're able to actually create your own list. So for example, if I haven't done this, but if I were to do dojis, and I were to say that they should be say this color, okay, and I were to draw a chart, let's see if we get any. Not on here, but let's see if we get any of our little alerts here going on. I might have done something wrong, so I think I need to take a let's see if we go back here to tools and filter alert manager. We will do another one. We'll take MACD and we'll do that one, and we'll call it this color. And let's try this again. And you can see there we have a little a little candlestick, which is when there was a 10-day to 20-day crossover up on the MACD. And you can see these little bars showing up in the color that we set when that event occurs. So this is all happening because each backtest file is being scanned as the chart's being drawn. And you can see actually we have the dojis here. So this would be the custom calculated list 3, which was the doji. So whatever a doji is, we could be looking at candlestick charts. We could see that it occurred at these times. Okay, well, if you stayed with it this long, congratulations. I am going to leave things now and go get a coffee or a hot chocolate, and I hope this has been helpful in giving you a picture of what Chartsmart's about. You can see it's logical, it's stable, it's on your own PC, it's easy to use, and it's very powerful, and there's nothing like it. So thank you very much, and have a great day.